y'all, welcome back. I'm Mama Dr. Jones, a board-certified ObGyn, a mom to 4, and it's everybody's favorite time of the month. Much better than that other time of the month where we review a famously entertaining episode of TLC's I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant and ruin it with educational commentary. This episode is really interesting, tons of learning points. It's season 4, episode 18, and it's about someone who got pregnant unexpectedly after having their tubes tied. If you're new here and you'd like to subscribe, we would love to have you. I talk about all things pregnancy, gynecology, periods, and everything in between. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Let's jump into the video. Today's video is sponsored by KiwiCo, and we'll hear more about them in a moment.
Crystal and her fiance Nathan are looking forward to adding another child to their family. Crystal is 8 months pregnant and expecting a boy. Together, they are already raising Crystal's daughter Alexis and their younger daughter Aubrey. On January 13th, 2010, at the age of 23, Crystal gives birth to their new son Nathan Jr. by C-section.
I love how they have x-rays up in the operating room. Why would you need a chest x-ray up in an operating room when you're doing a C-section? I have no idea. Also, and I just noticed this while editing, they apparently are planning to do this C-section at the level of her knee. So that's an ectopic pregnancy type I've never heard of, but maybe TLC knows something that I don't. TLC's editing and scene setting never fails to amaze me.
She and Nathan decided in advance that after delivery, Crystal would have her tubes tied.
We both agreed it was time to have her tubes tied. I mean, we were happy with the ring.
I knew it was supposed to be permanent, and the only way you could ever have kids again is if you had it surgically reversed.
Tubal ligation is permanent. There is, however, a failure rate, and I'm sure they're setting us up for what's about to happen. The failure rate of tubal ligation depends on the method that is used, but they all hang out around the same amount, which is around 10 to 13 in 1,000. And that's based on information from the CREST study, which followed about 10,000 people over a 10-year period after getting their tubes tied and documented pregnancies that happened thereafter. All of those pregnancies obviously don't go on to become live births. Some of them are ectopic, some of them are miscarriages, but there is a failure rate. That being said, when we talk about tubal reversal, this is not always a very reliable thing. Nobody should get their tubes tied unless they are certain they are done having babies. This is a very expensive procedure to have a tubal reversal, and it doesn't always work very well. So that's just something to note when you hear someone say, unless you have it reversed. That's not really that easy. Tubal ligation being done at the time of the C-section actually makes it a little bit more reliable, but tubes can grow back together, and the younger you are when you have your tubes tied, the more likely it is that over time you will eventually get pregnant and that will fail. But again, it's still very, very rare, about 10 to 13 in 1,000 over a 10-year period, which in that study I was talking about with the 10,000 people was 143 total pregnancies over that 10-year period in those 10,000 people. So the risk is low for failure, but it can happen.
The procedure goes smoothly, and 2 months later, Crystal's period returns.
Menstrual cycle was, normal. It lasted like 3 to 4 days every month, and it came like the 7th or 8th day of every month. It was the same before and after I had my tubes tied.
As spring approaches, Crystal turns 24 and has her hands full as a stay-at-home mom.
So she's young. Again, I told you, the younger you are at the time of a tubal ligation being done, the higher the chance of failure. It's still low, but it's higher. You have an increased fertility compared to someone who's older, and you have a longer period of time that you will continue to make eggs compared to someone who gets their tubes tied at 38.
While running errands on June 3rd, Crystal is blindsided by an oncoming car.
I slammed on brakes, and there was no way I was stopping.
Crystal recovers from the accident, except for lingering back pain that plagues her all summer.
Is it good?
Unable to exercise, Crystal begins to put on weight. In September, Crystal has little time for sleep when she starts a job working at a home improvement store to help make ends meet.
I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to be at work by 5.
And then when she got home, she would take care of the 3 kids.
I wouldn't get in the bed till like 11:30. And then the next day I had to get up and start at 3:30 again. So I mean, I was, tired.
I feel like that's a very valid reason to be tired and not think that it's because you're pregnant. You just had a baby, you had your tubes tied, and you started this new job where you wake up at 3:30 in the morning. That's terrible. And you have 3 kids at home. Of course you're tired.
At the beginning of 2011, Crystal's back is finally feeling better, and she makes a New Year's resolution to exercise and eat healthier.
I felt like I had more energy. I wasn't, nowhere near as tired.
But just when she's starting to feel better, Crystal wakes up for work on January 24th with sharp pains in her lower back.
I started hurting like in my kidney area pretty bad. A really, really, really sharp pain. Yeah, I had felt the pain before when I had previous kidney infections, but it was like 20 times worse. It made me very nervous. And I had blood in my urine.
So that could be a few things. She could have back labor if we're getting into the labor part, and she has blood from either vaginal bleeding and she just thought it was in the urine because she didn't realize that it was actually vaginal bleeding, or it could be that she does have a kidney infection and she's having some bleeding in the kidney, or it could be a kidney stone, which would oftentimes cause blood in the urine. So there's a lot of things that could be going on here, but I agree, no matter what it is, if she's having severe pain and she's having blood in her urine, which we call hematuria, then she needs to go in and see a doctor.
True or false? A newborn baby cries with an accent. The answer when we return.
Thank you to the wonderful sponsor of today's video, KiwiCo. If there is a child in your life who loves hands-on learning and projects, KiwiCo is perfect for them. KiwiCo's monthly crates are designed by experts to teach STEAM topics like science, technology, engineering, art, and math. My kids genuinely love KiwiCo. And as a science lover myself, I find these to be an incredible way to empower our kids to learn more at home and use their brain in a way that they truly enjoy. Each crate comes with all the items needed for the project included, so there's no running to the store to get extra supplies, and they're fully customizable to the age of your child. What's green mean?
Go.
What's red mean?
Not go.
Not only are they a great way to learn at home, but they also provide so much family fun time for us as well. I am so appreciative to have KiwiCo, a brand I genuinely love, as an ongoing sponsor on this channel. So if you'd like to try out KiwiCo and support my channel in the process, you can get your first month's crate for free by going to kiwico.com/mdj or clicking on the link in the description box below. Now let's get back to the video.
True or false? A newborn baby cries with an accent. The answer? True. Babies cry with the same melody used in their native language by the second day of life. They actually start learning intonation in the womb. Not wanting to worry her family, she doesn't tell them about her pain. Instead, she drives alone to the nearest emergency room.
In the emergency room, they asked me, is there any way you could be pregnant? And I'm like, no, I just had my period 2 weeks ago. There's no way. And I've had my tubes tied.
To see what is going on, Crystal is given an ultrasound.
So she says she's still having periods. This could be a number of things, and I hear people say this often, but it is physically impossible to have an actual period when you are pregnant. A menstrual cycle is shedding of the lining of the uterus. If that happens while you are pregnant, then you will have a miscarriage. So that is not possible. It is possible, and what is probably going on is that she is having intermittent bleeding that she is interpreting as a menstrual cycle, which of course, why would you not? If you're having bleeding here and there and it's happening for a few days at a time and goes away and then comes back, of course you would think that that's a period. That makes total sense. But just for clarification purposes, you cannot have an actual period while you are pregnant. Hormonally and physically, that is not possible. Some reasons that people may have bleeding during pregnancy would be like a subchorionic hematoma or a subchorionic hemorrhage, which is where a bleeding happens behind the placenta, and that can cause bleeding. And that can cause bleeding on and off throughout a whole pregnancy. Sometimes people have that and it happens here and there for the whole 40 weeks. You can have bleeding from the cervix. So people sometimes get really sensitive cervix during pregnancy. Cervix is made of the same mucosa like your gums, and just like your gums are more likely to bleed in pregnancy, the cervix is also more likely to bleed during pregnancy. So it could be that as well. There's a few other things. Those are the two most common that I would see causing frequent bleeding during pregnancy that could be misinterpreted as a period.
I kept asking, what can you tell me?
Miss, can you please tell me what's going on there?
At that point, I'm really worried.
Doctor?
He said, honey, you're in labor. When he said that, I really thought he was crazy. I thought he had really flipped his lid. And I'm like, there's no way. I was like, how? You tell me how am I pregnant? Because I've had my tubes tied, I've had my period.
I would like to know how they got that answer so quickly just from an ultrasound. Ultrasound doesn't diagnose labor, but interesting TLC editing as always.
You're about to have a baby.
She's shocked when she learns that her pains are contractions.
When it finally hit me, it was just like unbelievable.
Crystal calls her fiance Nathan, who is at home with their 3 kids, and thinks Crystal is at work.
Hello?
He can hardly believe the shocking news.
I forgot she didn't tell them. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? You're at home and you think your wife went to work or your fiance or your partner, whoever went to work, and then they call and they're like, hi, by the way, I'm actually at the hospital and I thought I had a kidney infection, but I'm having a baby.
You're what?
I had never heard of anyone having a baby after their tubes were tied.
Are you sure?
I was stunned, not expecting a child, and then you get a call one morning saying, you're gonna have another baby today.
All right, sweetie. I'll be
Nathan
right there.
leaves the kids with a sitter and rushes to the hospital.
I love the acting in these shows. I will never stop loving it. He said, you're what? Are you sure? Like you could accidentally be diagnosed with a full-term baby that you're delivering.
Because Crystal has had 3 previous C-sections, doctors decide that this is the safest way for her to deliver.
They had to get me prepped, and then they let Nathan come in, and he sat beside me while I had the C-section. I'm scared. I haven't went to the doctor. I've smoked cigarettes. The car accident happened. Is the baby gonna be okay? I mean, it tore me apart.
I wonder if she went to the hospital after the car accident and why they didn't diagnose her as pregnant at that time. That's very unusual to have been in an accident. It showed her being evaluated by EMS, so I'm assuming that she sought medical care after that. How did they not do a pregnancy test?
Really did.
Come on, baby. We got a baby boy.
After a few minutes, doctors deliver a 6-pound, 7-ounce baby boy.
Sweetie, great. You're great.
When you hear that first cry, it's like your heart flutters. All of a sudden, just tears start pouring.
Doctors pronounce the full-term baby in good health. They take Crystal to the maternity ward to recover. She calls friends and family to tell them the surprising news. And everyone has the same question. How did she get pregnant 3 months after getting her tubes tied?
I hope that they did something else at the time of the C-section to add to her pregnancy prevention plan if she wanted them to, removing the entire tube, which still has a failure rate but is lower, or urging her partner to get a vasectomy, which has a failure rate as well. But the nice thing about a vasectomy is that it's safer, it's cheaper, it's less invasive, but she's in a C-section, so that's different. It's being done at the time of the C-section. But a vasectomy in general, compared to tubal ligation, is a smaller surgery, it is safer, it is less expensive, and it is just as reliable. The additional benefit of vasectomy is that you can make sure it's working. You can just get a semen analysis, make sure there's no sperm inside the semen analysis, and know this is an effective vasectomy. Tubal ligation, there's no way to test it. You're just hoping that you're not in that small percentage of failure rate. Of course, vasectomy also requires that the person who's trying to avoid pregnancy is in a monogamous relationship and not having sex with anyone else who could get them pregnant. So that is, for some people, not a reliable way to prevent pregnancy, but in this situation, it sounds like they were in a monogamous relationship.
With all 3 of my other kids, I knew I was pregnant. I had the morning sickness. I felt the kick in. I was showing, but with this one, I had absolutely no signs or symptoms of being pregnant.
Crystal and Nathan are keeping busy raising their bigger-than-expected family.
As long as my kids are happy, then nothing else matters.
Christopher being born has made our family complete. It's one of the most amazing feelings in the world.
Super cute, baby. I'm so happy that everything worked out well for them and that they were able to adjust to having a little bit bigger family than they expected. If you have your tubes tied and you are using that as your contraception, you can still rely on that as your birth control. The failure rate is low. 143 pregnancies in 10,000 people over 10 years is very low. So please don't make this think that you can't rely on your tubal ligation. That being said, always take a pregnancy test if something is off, if you have new or weird symptoms or your period has changed and you're having sex with someone who can get you pregnant. just take a pregnancy test. If you're new here and you'd like to subscribe, we'd love to have you. Turn on notifications so you never miss an upload, and I will see you next Monday.